Hi, welcome to the Listen Up Girl podcast, your daily LGBTQ plus news podcast. I'm Zach Randall Friedman, and I am back from my 4th of July holiday. Today is Wednesday, July 8th. Pride Month is over, but the news machine never rests. And today we've got 6 stories that will run the full range. From a courtroom win in Florida to a heartbreaking verdict in Belfast to the orange convicted felon finding a brand new way to be cruel in his way out of Pride Month. Today, a federal appeals court just torched one of Ron DeSantis' signature laws. 3 men walk free in the killing of a beloved queer journalist. A teacher who called us mentally ill is about to feel some consequences. And there's data suggesting November might not go the way the right is hoping. So let's get into that. Appeals court guts DeSantis Stop Woke Act. So let's start, of course, in Florida, where the little tiny Ron DeSantis just took a big loss. A federal appeals court, the 11th Circuit Court, ruled Tuesday that the so-called Stop Woke Act, DeSantis' law restricting how professors can teach about race and gender in public universities, violates the First Amendment. This is a 2-1 decision, and here's this kicker. The judge who wrote the majority opinion, Britt Grant, was appointed by the orange convicted felon himself. Grant did not hold back. She called Florida's argument a breathtaking assertion of power to ban unpopular ideas from public discourse. Florida has basically argued that because the state pays professors' salaries, the state gets to control what they say. Grant's response, and I'm quoting, empathically, no. This is the same court that already struck down the workplace training piece of the law back in 2024. So this is the second gut punch to DeSantis' culture war agenda from the same bench. Florida can still ask for a full court rehearing or take it to the Supreme Court, but for now, professors in Florida can teach honestly about race, gender, and the history without the state breathing down their necks. Next story is 3 men acquitted in killing of journalist Lyra McKee. Now a devastating one out of Northern Ireland. Lyra McKee was a brilliant, openly gay journalist, one of the most promising voices in Northern Ireland, who was shot and killed in 2019 while covering a riot in Derry. She was 29. She wrote about what she called a ceasefire babies, the generation raised after the Good Friday Peace Accord, and her death sent shockwaves far beyond Ireland. Last week, 3 men accused in connection with her killing, Paul McIntyre, Peter Kavanagh, and Jordan Garth Devine, were found not guilty in a non-jury trial. The judge said the circumstantial evidence simply wasn't strong enough to convict and noted that the actual gunman has never been brought to the court. Lyra's sister, Nicola Corner, spoke outside the courthouse and said the system had completely failed. Lyra, her family, and Northern Ireland. She pointed out that over 150 people witnessed the event and not one came forward with evidence strong enough to secure a conviction. She called for an end to what she described as Northern Ireland's culture of silence and vowed the family would keep fighting. In her words, it's not over. We say Lyra's name tonight. She deserved so much better. Next, a teacher called LGBTQ plus people mentally ill, and it's catching up with him. Here's one where the receipts are doing the talking. A teacher who allegedly called LGBTQ people mentally ill is now facing real professional consequences. And it wasn't just that one comment. This is the same person who reportedly claimed that billionaires are the cause of transgenders, which honestly makes no sense. It almost loops back around to being art. But here's the thing. Comments like these don't just live in a vacuum. When someone's in a position of authority over young people, a teacher openly disparages an entire community, that's not a personal opinion issue. That's a safety issue for every queer and trans kid sitting in that classroom. And it looks like consequences here are just going to sting as they should. Accessibility isn't cruelty, it's the bare minimum. Next, the orange convicted felon ends Pride Month with a rant. So speaking of people with the quiet part loud, let's talk about how the White House chose to close out Pride Month. On the very last day of June, the orange convicted felon's White House put an official statement, and instead of anything resembling acknowledgement or respect for the community, they used it to rage against what they called transgender insanity. The statement actually listed the administration's attacks on trans people as accomplishments, as things to be proud of. So let that land for a second. An official government document marking Pride Month, framing stripping down of health care and rights for trans Americans as a highlight reel. This is who they are. They are not hiding it. They are not softening it. They are bragging about it. And the reason a show like this exists every single day is so that their record reflects the truth, not their version of it. Our next story is the data says November might not go their way. So let's get a little hope for all of us because we have earned it. A political analyst is pointing to an often overlooked statistic, one that has reportedly predicted the midterm winner every cycle. And right now it's pointing towards what he describes as a potentially historic win for Democrats this November. Now, I always tell you a forecast is not a real result, and only poll that counts is the one on election day. Complacency is how you lose. But it's worth knowing that beneath all the noise and all the cruelty coming out of Washington, there is real evidence that the backlash is building and that people are trying to legislate us out of public life, may be badly misleading the room. The takeaway isn't to relax, it's to organize. The momentum only is real if we show up. So get out there and vote because we need to turn this country around. Next, a defiant KyivPride marches on. So let's close with courage. In Ukraine, a country at war under conditions most of us can barely imagine, the LGBTQ plus community held a defiant pride parade. People marched, celebrated, and refused to be erased, even a nation fighting for its very survival, even with the constant threat of danger overhead. So think about what that takes. Here at home, we talk about bravery of showing up to Pride, and it is brave. But in Kyiv, showing up means marching through a city under threat, insisting that queer joy and queer visibility are worth defending right alongside your homeland. So if you ever feel like your voice is too small or your presence doesn't matter, remember Kyiv. Remember that all over the world, people are risking everything just to be seen. The least thing we can do is keep showing up too. So that's your episode for today, Wednesday, July 8th. 6 stories: DeSantis stopped, woke act, struck down, the painful acquittal in Lyra McKee's killing, a teacher facing consequences for his bigotry, the White House closing Pride Month with a rant and encouraging data into November, and the defiant pride in Kyiv. If this show is part of your day, do me a favor, hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. Take a second to rate and review. It gently helps new listeners find us. And share the episode with one person who needs to hear it. And come find me on social at The Real Zach RE. That's ZACHRE. And to keep the conversation going on Instagram, I'm Zach. Stay loud, stay informed, and we'll see you tomorrow. This is Listen Up, Girl.